Is the Goonies 2 finally happening? Josh Brolin and Spielberg give updates after 40 years. Imagine a world where one of the most iconic movies of the 80s finally gets a sequel. 40 years after it first captured the hearts of audiences worldwide. The Goonies, a cult classic that has stood the test of time, has been a topic of discussion for a potential sequel for decades, and fans are still holding on to hope. But here's the thing. It's not just about reviving a beloved film. It's about doing justice to the original story and its characters. Josh Brolin, who starred in the original, recently shared his thoughts on the long-awaited project, and it's clear that the stakes are high. Speaking with Entertainment Tonight, Brolin revealed that Steven Spielberg, the mastermind behind the original storyline, has been the primary gatekeeper for any potential sequel. And this is where it gets interesting. Brolin mentioned that there have been 5 scripts so far, but Spielberg hasn't approved any of them yet. It's no surprise given Spielberg's reputation for having great taste and being extremely picky. But what does this mean for the future of the sequel? Despite the challenges, there are signs that the project might be gaining momentum. Deadline reported in February that Warner Bros. Had hired Potsy Ponciroli to write the sequel's screenplay, suggesting that the studio is serious about moving forward with the project. However, Brolin also expressed his reservations about revisiting the story, and it's hard not to understand his concerns. The original film, which was directed by the late Richard Donner, has become a timeless classic, and the thought of tarnishing its memory is daunting. As Brolin put it, "I hope it does happen because the experience was so great. The movie is received so well, generation after generation. It's just everything good about it." But he also admitted that he doesn't want to taint his memory of the original film. Joey Morona, a pop culture expert, shared his thoughts on the matter, saying, "I fear the sell-by date on a Goonies sequel is dangerously close to expiring. It's a valid concern, considering the significant time lapse since the original film." Brolin even joked about the challenges of creating a sequel, saying, "It's like, oh, we came out with another, and then the Goonies grew up, and then they came out with their walkers. And then they fell off a cliff because they couldn't see very well. Like, what are you gonna do? I don't know. Maybe it could be great." The original 1985 film, which also starred Sean Astin and Corey Feldman, followed a group of kids on an epic adventure as they searched for buried treasure after discovering an ancient map. Chris Columbus, who later directed the first 2 Home Alone and Harry Potter films, wrote the screenplay. So, the question remains, can a sequel live up to the original, or will it fall short? It's a debate that's sure to spark differing opinions, but here's where it gets controversial. Should the sequel even be made, or should the original be left untouched? What do you think? Should the Goonies be revived, or is it better to leave the classic film as it is? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And this is the part most people miss. The potential sequel is not just about the film itself, but about the impact it could have on the fans and the legacy of the original. It's a delicate balance between nostalgia and innovation, and it will be interesting to see how the story unfolds. One thing is certain, though. The world is waiting with bated breath to see what happens next. Will the Goonies finally get the sequel they deserve, or will it remain a distant dream? Only time will tell. Josh Brolin shares his concerns about a potential Goonies sequel. Brace yourself. Even one of Hollywood's toughest stars is admitting he's worried about messing with a cherished classic. Josh Brolin recently confessed to Entertainment Weekly that while he'd love to see a Goonies sequel come together, after all, the original still charms audiences decades later, he's cautious about risking its legacy. "I hope it actually happens, because making that movie was such a blast," he said. "The original has delighted fans, family after family. It's pure joy." But here's where it gets controversial. What if a new chapter tarnishes all of that? I don't want to spoil the memory I hold dear. And this is the part most people miss. Brolin even poked fun at how a grown-up version of the Goonies might look. He joked about them cruising around with walkers, tripping over obstacles once their eyesight fails. Yet he knows one name could make or break the project. Steven Spielberg. If Spielberg gives it his blessing, you can trust it'll be special, Brolin added. Let's rewind to 1985. Under Richard Donner's direction and working from Chris Columbus's screenplay based on a story by Spielberg, the Goonies introduced us to a band of adventurous kids. Sean Astin, Ke Huy Quan, Corey Feldman, Jeff Cohen, and a fresh-faced Josh Brolin, in his first film role, set out to unearth hidden treasure and save their neighborhood from a predatory country club expansion. Along the way, they outsmarted the nefarious Fratelli family, dealt with bumbling adults, and raced against foreclosure to keep their homes. Why do fans flip over the idea of a sequel and yet hesitate at the same time? When it bowed in theaters on June 7, 1985, critics met it with mostly positive reviews, and moviegoers pumped it to a $68 million haul on a $19 million budget. Merchandising, video games, and endless nostalgia tours have nudged the Goonies into pop culture immortality, barely one step away from being a bona fide masterpiece. Still, the original cast and die-hard fans have tiptoed around the idea of revisiting this world. Even Sean Astin has suggested that any follow-up might not feature the names we all grew up with. Here's the bottom line. Classics carry heavy expectations. Should some stories be left untouched to preserve that first-time magic? Or is a sequel the perfect way to pass the torch to a new generation? Tell me, do you think The Goonies 2 could honor its roots, or would it only disappoint? Sound off in the comments.